Hey, welcome. Good morning, everyone. I'll make this quick, sharp, and simple. For our algo program, and this may be a little much for a lot of people that are only trading a couple markets, but some of the things that we look at that we've created that we allow our trade room community to focus in on, besides the markets that we look at in our newsletter, we have SPXL leveraged ETF, we have trading models SDS, we have trading models on the BXX, and then for those that have 401k plans that can't sell short, we have SBXY up in your upper right-hand corner screen here. So the neat thing about the Algo Optimizer is that you can program it for average moves over time. I mean, that's called optimization, and that's what takes the pain and the headache out of knowing when and what to trade. And one of the more beautiful things about this program is that if you're in an active short on volatility, then you shouldn't be in an active short in the stock market index, right? So right now we have a situation where most of our models have taken profits on today's rally. This is Monday, and we had a big move. So the one market that is in breakout mode still is TNA. We have long exposure to TNA in JPerson, our managed accounts that we do. That's the good news for those. The market in our trade room community here, what we were talking about is a bunch of stuff that relates to what we're trading and what I put out in the newsletter and shared with you on YouTube videos last week. So first off, let's take a look at the confluence and the wall of resistance in the SPY. So it's every day we've gone through, and I'm gonna examine this chart first. All right, so this is a 1 hour chart. Let's go over and make a 4 hour chart. So first and foremost, we had this wall of resistance up here, and it held like a rock. And then the market came back, and then finally Thursday the market broke out, closed a greater, and you can clearly see our the volume surged into that move, right? So you can see the volume surge. The McClellan oscillator that's based on the NYSE was still in not overbought condition, so it supported this breakout. And now here we are in the S&Ps, and again up against a confluence of resistance. So what is the confluence of resistance? These aren't any real short-term pivot analysis time frames. These are both our weekly analysis, and then I'll get to monthly in just a minute. But we have older pivot resistance here, newer pivot resistance here, and then higher resistance up there. So this is a wall of resistance up here that I would have to say that, you know, now's not the time to start taking new, fresh longs. I don't think anyone really would, but I think it is time to examine the Russell and respect its breakout, because it needs to play catch up, and that's one of the main focuses that we've had since we were actually on not just here for our own community, but also at the Traders Expo in Las Vegas, if some of you remember that. So other than that, we also have put out a lot of different programs in YouTube explaining and sharing with you our work in the weekly newsletter, the thoughts and observations. And I'm going to bring into this chart here and share with you briefly what's going on in the markets. You notice that we said a week ago, if you look at the YouTube channel, time to get into energy, time to get into energy. And so we've taken position, and we shared with you what our position was, both in options, long the 22 strike, March XOP, 24 for those that wanted a little bit more bang and higher time frame money. You know, that's kind of cool, right? You get a further out. If we're more expressly bullish, then deeper out of the money options with time will give you a greater rate of return. They're lower probability that you'll make money, but under the right conditions, the biggest wealth creation product on the face of the planet is an out-of-the-money option when you're right in the direction. So we were looking for catch-up for the XOP from our higher time frame work, and that's why we have the 22 strike, the 24 strike, and then we have the actual ETF in XOP in our long portfolio. So now it is, as far as any ETF, and this is up 3.72% today, and as you can see, everything else, the defensive stuff, IYR, low close doji, that's the real estate investment trust, gold miners are down. And that's okay because we want to get into the gold miners, and I'll get to that in a second. TLT is down. Junior miners are down. Gold's down. BNQ. All of that's what's being liquidated. We're seeing rotation out of defensive and into aggressive growth. What is the aggressive growth? Well, the Russell is outperforming. It's up 0.89% today relative to the S&Ps, which is up 0.8. So moral of the story is we've been focused on energy, whether it was ERX, whether it was UWT for crude oil exposure. That's the ETF on crude oil. ERX is a 3-time leveraged ETF with exposure to energy. That's been our stance. Now, where do I see things going? We also have exposure to long ConocoPhillips, COP. Unfortunately, today, it's down. It's up the least on the whole spectrum. Hess is up 4%. Apache, you can see I've just collated the best performing to least performing. Why? Well, ConocoPhillips, I mean, we didn't just buy this. We bought this over a week ago. It's already had a decent move. So it's lagging today, and other stocks are joining. So my guess is when institutions and everyone starts pouring into the energy sector, they're going to just start to accumulate more and more positions. Today, the underperformers have been, and how do we know what an underperformer is? All right. On Thinkorswim, you have this tool called PMC, but I created it in TradeStation, truthfully. And how I created it and how I use it in TradeStation is through the radar screen that you can see on here. And it's, again, a wonderful a way to identify if a market is underperforming, outperforming. And as you can see, we had a market starting to outperform relative to the S&P 500 way back here at the end of November. And that's when I was kind of whole and high and mighty on the energy space, especially with ConocoPhillips. All right, you can clearly see the relative strength is bright blue. These are the stocks that I like to see, stocks that are bright blue outperforming the market. These are all now fuchsia. What does fuchsia mean? Well, it means that right now, these stocks like Marathon Petroleum Corporation, what is it doing? It hasn't outperformed the market. Look, see the difference at ConocoPhillips? It was already in an uptrend. Look at Marathon Petroleum. It's just today getting a bid. And so fuchsia, and this is what the relative strength tool shows us. When it goes from pink, magenta, let's say, to bright blue, it means that the stock is starting to outperform relative to the S&P 500, and you want to be a part of that long position. When it's going from a negative trend, it's showing divergence. So here we had a new higher high in Marathon Petroleum, and it was dark blue, and the trend was weakening of its relative strength. Our volume tool showed a double top. Our momentum indicator showed that prices was weakening, and then we had, again, price-based indicators, the PPS, showing confirmation that there were short triggers involved. All right, so I'm giving you a way of following markets, how using the John Person methodology. First and foremost, everything I'm talking about was in this book, Mastering the Stock Market. All of everything in that book came from this book 15 years ago. So we are hosting this Wednesday. On our website, you can go through the contact me information, say I want to be a part of this. We're doing a 30-minute laser lightning fast-paced review of what sectors you should be looking forward to, what sectors are prone for overbought conditions for January sell-off. I'll give you a hint. One stock, Microsoft. Microsoft, and let's take a quick review of MSFT. Well, on the surface, Microsoft doesn't look that bad. It's taking advantage of a secondary higher high. It's taking advantage of a market breakout. But under review of current conditions, oops, what do we see forming right now with Microsoft? Well, it's rising with a relative strength underperformance in the marketplace, A. B, the volume, and this is a volume tool, the volume is showing divergence. And so my guess is in the next week with option expiration this Friday, you want to have possibly, if it rallies into, and our target was, between the R1 for the month and the targeted person's pivot resistance around 158, anything up in that zone, I think you want to be targeting in direct profit-taking downside puts for the January expiration, and I wouldn't go any further out of the money than, say, the 150, okay? So if you want to go with a little theta, you can buy the 155 and sell the 150 as a put spread, and that might give you some great opportunity as we head into the new year. Those are the types of trade recommendations and ideas that I'm going to present to you and share with you the list of what you want. Sign up. I look forward to seeing you Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Guarantee it's not going to be a waste of your time. Thanks for listening, and I hope so far, at least with our YouTube videos, I've been right on track helping to share with you what we're doing, being very transparent, and why we're looking at these particular trades, such as XOP, why I'm looking as a scale-in approach to GDXJ. We're not going all in here, but I think that that's the trade that you want to be in going into 2020. And we're going to cover all of that information lightning fast Wednesday night at 8 p.m. I look forward to seeing you. Thanks for joining me this morning, and I hope you found value in understanding this massive wall of resistance that we've got at this 320 number in the SPY or 3,200 level in the E-mini S&Ps. Thanks for listening. And don't forget, March is your big futures you should be trading. Everyone now should be in March futures. That's the big volume push. We still can trade because rollover was last week in the futures from December to March. But truthfully, today's the day you make the transition for all your algo programs. March contract today. Thanks for listening.